It's kind of like Arlo Donkey. So he's got this soul that's just wonderful.
The conversation a few months ago.
It wasn't a perfect, the way he did it wasn't perfect.
How long was the first sentence he used?
I don't know, he probably just said, well, here's the deal. And then there was a long pause, really, and a bit of a trembly voice, and, you could tell it was very difficult for him.
Whose heart was pounding harder, yours or his?
His, for sure.
When you think how many years he spent grappling with this.
Tragic. There's a thread throughout his whole life of, a life that he was longing to live, really. And, when you're that close with somebody, you see little clues, no matter what.
Changes in his dad's body during those hormones back in the 80s. But Brandon says when his dad told him that he felt he needed to transition into a woman, he felt relief.
I feel like I'm getting an upgraded version of my dad, of a parent.
You can't only be... I mean, I know you're supportive, but you can't only be just okay with it and supportive.
It's a little too positive, is that what you're saying? Yeah, I know. Obviously there's parts of it that aren't necessarily easy. I'm not handling this perfectly, I'm just doing my best to cope with what's going on. And when I see my dad as a woman, it might be a little bit shocking at first.
Two people trying to grapple imperfectly with something so new.
Does it embarrass you?
I guess everybody would say there's a little bit of embarrassment.
But a few days later, we get a call. It's from all four of Jenner's older children saying they want to show up for their dad too, and saying how brave he was telling them the truth.
I just held his hand and I cried with him and I just told him how proud of him I was and how inspired I was.
The first thing I thought was just like, oh, it finally makes sense.
Making sense of the changes in their dad back in the 80s, when little Bert learned there was something called a gender struggle.
I just remember one day being in junior high class and having to kind of get up and run out of the room quickly. Because I was afraid that my dad was going to transition to a woman and I was never going to see him again.
Jenner says he just hopes his children will keep talking and ask him everything.
We can ask any questions we want. If we mess up, it's not a big deal.